There are a ton of new details being rumored for an alleged Total War Warhammer 40,000 game, including when we can expect this game to be announced and when it could eventually release. We also got some information about what to expect from the game's mechanics, factions, and more. Before we get to this, though, I do want to point this out here, too. This is all coming in the wake of a monster success with Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, and Games Workshop noting that they are looking for the next one. So in their 2024-25 half-year report, Games Workshop revealed that it had earned income of £26.1 million from licensing revenue, with, quote, the increase being mainly from Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. That's about $31.9 million, £26.1 million, if you do the currency calculation. It also revealed that licensing revenue from royalty income increased in the period by £18 million to £30.1 million. That's about $36.8 million. Furthermore, the company revealed that 98% of all its total licensing revenue came from PC and console games, while the other 2% was split between mobile and other games. So, given the success of Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, Games Workshop made it clear they are looking for the next one. This is what they said in that report. Clearly, we are looking for the next one. However, it did hedge. We recognize that successes like these for Warhammer are not a given in the world of video games. And we kind of already knew Space Marine 2 was a huge success. They announced in December that they had 5 million players in just 3 months, and then issued a thank you about that. And then we also saw that the game did extraordinarily well, especially when it released 225,690 all-time peak concurrent. And even in the last 24 hours, it's still doing pretty well, I would say. 9,209 still playing. And they are already talking about DLC or a sequel. We saw this from the chief creative, Tim Willits. He told IGN, our game director, Dmitry Grigorenko, he has proposed some story ideas that could either be DLC or a sequel. We're literally just catching our breath. This is 2 weeks out. We just need to get the dust to settle. But I can confidently say that we will not disappoint our Warhammer fans in the future. It's too big of a success. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but hopefully we'll be working on Space Marine content for a long time. He then specifically addressed a possible sequel, saying, we just have to figure it out. I would love to do it. Yes, 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 yes. There's so many different factions. There are other chapters, too, that are interesting. So, obviously, it looks like there's probably going to be a Space Marine 3. There's obviously potentially going to be DLC for Space Marine 2. And Games Workshop is going to still be obviously licensing their IP out to other game developers to make games, make Warhammer 40,000 games. So with that out of the way, let's get into one of these games that could be the next big release for Warhammer 40,000, and that is a Total War game from Creative Assembly. YouTuber Chapter Master Valrak shared a ton of his information to his channel at the end of December, where he shared that Creative Assembly is indeed working on a Total War Warhammer 40,000 game, and that it recently did a friends and family test for the game back in October 2024. He went on to share that an announcement for the game could come in June, with a test plan for February 2026 and an official release sometime in the fall or winter of 2026. So that is what he shared from his inside sources. He then went on to reveal some information about the game. He's saying that the campaign maps will be, quote, galaxy maps where you battle for like system control on the ground and in space. He says, now this source did say they're not sure if space battles will be in the game at launch, but most likely. He went on to say this, it's nice to start hearing rumors that it's not just going to be ground battles. There's going to be a lot of things added to the space part of the game as well, because that is a massive, massive part of Warhammer 40,000. So that would be absolutely epic if you have space and ground battles. You're not only fighting over kind of like control of systems within the galaxy, but you're also obviously having to wage war on planets against various different factions as well. That sounds really, really interesting and obviously very complex too. So I'm actually like, that like sounds really, really cool to me. If you recall the first Dawn of War game, they released a couple of expansions where you could actually, you were fighting against all of the different other factions for control over a single planet. Now I'll kind of expand that into an entire galaxy. That sounds really cool to me. I'm really interested in what they might be having planned here. That sounds really aggressive, and it sounds really cool too. So, really looking forward to what they might be cooking up as far as how that will operate. I'm really looking forward if this is true. He then shared some game mechanics stuff that he had heard as well, saying that there will be air combat that was originally developed for a canceled Total War World War I game. He said the game will feature mechanics like dogfights for biplanes and stuff like that. That's what he was saying about the World War I game, and saying that was going to be incorporated into this 40,000 game, saying it could apply to things like Valkyries and Walkers. So talking about that stuff there. I haven't played the Total War Warhammer 3, but based on some of these screenshots, clearly looks like there is some kind of air combat that is taking place. So maybe they've just kind of advanced on that mechanic and move forward with that. But that sounds like really cool. Obviously, 40k does have like artillery bombardments. You have air combat, etc. Things like that could be implemented into that and add just an even more dynamic to kind of those RTS maps that you usually get when you're fighting over the specific pieces of territory. So interesting to see how that will play out as well. As far as factions, he said the game will likely include Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Orcs, and Eldar. He also noted these will apparently be launching with sub-factions attached to them as well. He then shared his own speculation, saying it's likely going to launch with the main poster boys, which is probably going to be Ultramarines, but I would love maybe Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Imperial Fist, White Scars to be attached to them as well, and maybe have certain hero characters attached to them, Lysander, Guilliman for the Ultramarines, Azrael for the Dark Angels, Dante for the Blood Angels, etc. So that is the latest rumor for this Total War Warhammer 40,000. It does sound like Creative Assembly is indeed working on it. We've got some potential release dates here based on this rumor. We've got some interesting ideas of how they might be having the galaxy maps or how they might be doing the campaign maps being galaxy maps. And then obviously some of the factions that might be incorporated into the game at launch. I would love to see the Necrons as well. That could be really interesting. There's so many things that they can do. Obviously, you could have different factions of the Chaos Space Marines, etc., and the different evil gods that they worship. And obviously, you could have all the different orc factions too. There's just a lot that they could include. The Dark Eldar as well could be really, really fun, very complex as well. But I love the Total War games. The Total War Medieval 2 is probably my favorite Total War game. That game is probably one of the closest it gets to perfection, with how it has kind of the city management aspects to it, and then obviously the RTS strategies and the diploma and things like that. It's just fantastic. So I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully they are indeed making this, because it does sound really cool. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.